Hello, and welcome to Stat Wars, a Star Wars Legion podcast focused on competitive results. All results shown will be from data collected from Longshanks after filtering for rated singles events. Graphs have removed mirror matches to make the data as clean as possible. As always, I'd remind you to please like and subscribe. So let's look at our recent events. We had 27 events over the weekend, which was super exciting. It was like it was Star Wars Day or something over the weekend. Those events included 24 one-day events, 3 two-day events, the Star Wars Galactic Conquest in the UK, the Legion Grand Tournament at the Richmond Open, and the Gongai Games May the 4th tournament. And the events total 363 players. Let's dive into the results for each of the 3 two-day tournaments. For the Star Wars Galactic Conquest 3 results, the winner was Jeff Port with a Rebel list. The top 4 was a mix of Rebels, Gar, and Empire. The results were pretty similar to the current meta, with Rebels and CIS outperforming Gar and the Galactic Empire. So let's look at that winning list. It's a fairly meaty 13 activation list. You have double X-34s for dealing with armor along with an ATRT. Those X-34s do have the unstable astromech, allowing for a very potent alpha strike potential as well. You have Din and the Swoops, both able to provide some really fun objective play with their high mobility. Then you have the Vets and Mark IIs for backline play, holding objectives, hanging onto a flank, etc. And then some Slingers and Sleepers as special forces. Moving on to the Richmond Open, this was the first GT of the new season. We had 3 rounds of play, plus a top cut, which was won by Michael Stubbs. The top 3 was the result of an odd player count, I believe. So there were 2 Gar players and 1 Rebel player. The 2 Gar players faced off with Michael winning that final game. Overall, there's a healthy representation of all 4 factions, with a bit heavier representation of Gar and Rebels at this particular event. The winning list bucked current trends, sporting only 9 activations. You have Rex to get the Bad Batch up for shooting on turn 1, as well as the 5's Super Squad there. The Commander is there for the extra surges, presumably. You have triple Commandos for even more turn 1 killing power. And then finally, the Boyle and Medic infantry squads with the mortars to lay down some suppression in rounds 2 to 5, as well as soak wounds, either through Boyle using Guardian or through the Medic healing back wounds off of Bad Batch or other units. Now, moving on to the last of the large tournaments, the Gongai Games tournament. Here we see a top 8, with the winner being Chris Platt with an Empire list. Top 8 had a nice mix of all 4 factions. Overall, Rebels had the highest winning percentage despite having fewer players than the other factions. There were lots of red saves present, with Gar and Empire both sporting a large number of players at this event. Looking at the winning list, it is sort of a classic Vader and Dues list, supplemented with some Black Suns and Scouts for some range 2 firepower. The Naked Storms that look to be a filler unit, and then the Ion Snows are there to handle droids and vehicles. Moving on from the individual results to the larger meta, we can see now that we have about 300 games in the current period. CIS is off to a very strong start, sporting a 59% winning percentage. Rebels are also doing quite well with a 55% winning percentage. Gar is just below 50%, but able to punch much higher, winning several tournaments in the recent season and in past seasons. Finally, we get to Empire, which has continued to struggle since 2.6 and now appears to be a bit worse off post-update. I think this could be a combination of both the loss of aggressive tactics as well as IRGs. Obviously, capable pilots can still win big events, as we just saw Chris win, but right now it seems to be more of a challenging faction to get maximum efficiency out of. I will note that region-specific charts are available on the Legion Discord, but I'm not going to cover them in this podcast. Moving on to faction popularity, this one's real simple. Everybody's almost equal, right around that 25% mark, which is great. It means everybody's having fun and we're in a good game health state. Moving on to our X&O, X&O1 winners. In this graph, we're looking at the percentage of players that went either 3-0 or 3-1 in larger events. So we're looking at who is performing well at the top tables. The large caveat to this data is that it is not wholly accurate because Longshanks doesn't list players that did not win a game. So all the data is a little bit off, but it's the best we have, so we're going to run with it. Also, I'll note that this is still a very small sample set, and really, we don't want to draw too many conclusions until those games played gets over 300. But what we can say is that Rebels, as of right now, are clearly the best performing faction. CIS saw a drop off since the points update, but that number could swing easily. And GAR and Empire are still making top tables, but at a lower rate than the higher activation armies. Moving on to our 5-0 finishes, we now have 3 of the 4 major factions each notching a 5-0 or better finish since the update. So very excited to see that, and hopefully and presumably CIS will join that list very shortly, as that faction overall is doing quite well. Next, we're going to look at performance since the April update. This graph looks at the cumulative results of wins over time. So what you can see now that we've gotten to 300 games should be that our data swings will be smaller moving forward. CIS, not surprisingly, came down a bit from 62% to 59%, which was fairly expected. I don't think it was a sustainable winning rate. Rebels also came up now that presumably people are getting a little more used to Lando and the other units that got reworked in the April update. GAR had a small bump as well. That could be a result of people now playing with Ahsoka as well as playing with the ARC medics. And Empire is, as of right now, still really looking for its bottom. My hope is that it doesn't go below that 38%, but only time will tell. So some final concluding remarks. With over 300 games per faction, the data set is getting past the point where we're seeing really big swings. We now have a good data set, but we will still see changes over time. Obviously, product availability, things like B2s becoming available may shift things around. So that'll be exciting to see as product releases what happens with the meta. Last week, I did mention that I was a little concerned about the decline in Empire popularity. Obviously, that was premature. I'm happy to see that those players are still actively engaged in the game. And finally, I'll mention that while we highlighted the larger tournaments here, there were obviously a ton of tournaments over the weekend, and we saw some new tactics emerging. Former world champion Ollie Dyer went 3-0 with a 6 activation GAR list featuring Anakin, Bad Batch, and 3 squads of double-sized infantry, which is obviously very different from the current accepted meta of you need 12 acts. And I will also shout out the Menace of the Mid-Atlantic. Mike Berry experimented triple moving an Ahsoka infantry squad after dropping them out of a lat, using a combination of Cody and the ISP with the beam pilots. So I think what we're seeing is that we haven't figured out all the tricks yet in the new game, and I'm excited to see what other new lists emerge over time. Thanks for listening, and again, remember to like and subscribe.